The hospital room was silent except for the steady beep of the heart monitor. Emily's frail fingers clutched the edge of her blanket, her gaze fixed on the rain pattering against the window. She had fought cancer for 2 grueling years and every day felt like an uphill battle. But what hurt the most wasn't the illness. It was the look on her husband Michael's face earlier that day. He had come in to see her, his usual smile tight and forced. His visits had grown shorter over the last few months, and his excuses for leaving always felt rehearsed. But today something was different. She could see it in his eyes, guilt. A heavy, suffocating guilt that no amount of fake smiles could hide. "Is everything okay, Michael?" Emily had asked, her voice trembling with exhaustion. Michael had hesitated, his hand gripping the edge of the bed rail as though it was the only thing keeping him upright. "Of course, everything's fine." But she knew it wasn't. And as she watched him walk out of the room, his shoulders hunched and his phone clutched tightly in his hand, she felt the first crack in the foundation of her trust. Emily had been at her lowest. The chemotherapy left her weak and nauseous, and some days she could barely summon the strength to smile. But Michael had been her rock, or so she thought. He brought her flowers every week, kissed her forehead, and promised her they'd get through this together. It was her younger sister, Vanessa, who had stepped in to help with the day-to-day chores. Vanessa had always been the carefree one, the one who never settled down or took life too seriously. But she'd shown a surprising amount of compassion and dedication in caring for Emily. She cooked, cleaned, and even stayed overnight when Michael claimed he had work emergencies. But something about Vanessa's constant presence began to feel off. One evening, Emily woke up unexpectedly in the middle of the night. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that made her feel like she was intruding on a secret. She shuffled to the kitchen for water, only to hear muffled voices from the living room. "Michael, stop. This is wrong," Vanessa's voice whispered urgently. "Do you think I don't know that?" Michael hissed back. "But I can't help how I feel, Vanessa." Emily froze. The glass in her hand slipped and shattered on the tiled floor. The sound brought them rushing to her side, their faces pale and their eyes wide with panic. "What's going on?" Emily asked, her voice shaking as much as her hands. "Nothing," Vanessa said quickly, kneeling to pick up the shards of glass. "We were just talking." "About what?" Emily pressed, her gaze darting between them. Michael looked at Vanessa, a silent exchange passing between them. "Work," he lied. "It's been stressful lately." But Emily wasn't convinced. The way Vanessa avoided her eyes, the way Michael's hand hovered near Vanessa's shoulder as if drawn by an invisible force, it all felt wrong. 2 weeks later, Emily decided she needed to know the truth. Her instincts screamed at her that something was going on, and she couldn't shake the unease that had settled in her chest. She convinced Michael to leave his phone at home one day, claiming she needed it to call the hospital. When he was gone, she unlocked it. Her heart stopped. There, in his messages, were texts to Vanessa. Messages she couldn't unsee. "I can't stop thinking about you. Last night was a mistake, but I can't regret it. We need to talk. Emily is getting suspicious." The words blurred as tears filled her eyes. Emily scrolled through more messages, each one like a dagger to her heart. Photos. Late-night plans. Confessions of love. She dropped the phone, her body trembling with rage and heartbreak. How could they do this? How could Michael betray her like this and with her own sister? When Michael came home that evening, Emily was waiting for him in the living room. The phone was on the coffee table, the incriminating text pulled up on the screen. "Emily," he said, stopping in his tracks when he saw her face. "What's wrong?" "Why don't you tell me?" she said, her voice cold and brittle. She gestured to the phone. "Or should I read your messages out loud?" Michael's face went pale. He glanced at the phone, then back at Emily. I can explain." "Explain what?" she snapped, her voice rising. "That while I've been fighting for my life, you've been sleeping with my sister? That you've been sneaking around behind my back, lying to me every day?" "I didn't mean for this to happen," Michael said, his voice breaking. It just happened." Emily let out a bitter laugh. "It just happened? You accidentally tripped and fell into her bed?" "Emily, please," Michael said, reaching for her. But she recoiled, her fury palpable. "Don't touch me," she hissed. "You've already taken everything from me. My trust, my dignity, my family. How long has this been going on?" Michael hesitated, and that hesitation was all the answer she needed. The next morning, Emily called Vanessa to the house. She needed to hear it from her sister, to see if there was even a shred of remorse in her. Vanessa arrived, her face tight with worry. "Emily, what's going on?" she asked as she stepped inside. "You tell me," Emily said, crossing her arms. Or should I read you the messages I found on Michael's phone? Vanessa's face crumpled. Emily, I'm so sorry, she whispered, tears spilling down her cheeks. I didn't mean to hurt you. Didn't mean to hurt me? Emily said, her voice rising. You were supposed to be my sister, Vanessa. My blood. And you betrayed me with my husband? It wasn't like that, Vanessa said, shaking her head. It happened. I never wanted this. Stop saying that. Emily screamed. You wanted it enough to let it happen. Enough to keep it a secret while I was lying in a hospital bed. Vanessa sobbed, but Emily felt no sympathy. She had no tears left to shed for people who had destroyed her life. Emily decided she wasn't going to be a victim. She hired a private investigator to dig deeper into Michael and Vanessa's relationship, determined to uncover every secret they had tried to hide. What she found shocked her to her core. Vanessa wasn't just Michael's lover. She had been siphoning money from Emily's savings for months, using it to fund vacations and shopping sprees with Michael. The betrayal ran deeper than Emily had ever imagined. Emily sat in her lawyer's office, the evidence laid out before her. Bank statements, receipts, and photos from the private investigator painted a damning picture. Not only had Michael betrayed her with Vanessa, but they had also been conspiring behind her. Back for financial gain. Emily's cancer treatments had drained much of their savings, and what little was left had been stolen by the two people she trusted most. Her lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Clara, leaned back in her chair. We have more than enough to file for divorce and press charges for fraud, Emily. But I need to know, are you ready to go through with this? Emily hesitated. She wasn't just fighting a legal battle, she was fighting for her life. Could she handle this on top of everything else? But then she thought of Michael's lies, Vanessa's deceit, and the pain they had caused her. This wasn't just about justice, it was about reclaiming her dignity. I'm ready, she said firmly. Let's do it. Michael returned home that evening to find Emily waiting for him again, but this time she wasn't alone. Clara sat beside her, a stack of papers on the coffee table. Emily, what's going on? Michael asked, his voice laced with apprehension. She didn't bother with pleasantries. Michael, I know everything. The cheating, the money, you and Vanessa didn't just betray me emotionally. You stole from me. You stole from us. Michael's face paled. Emily, I can explain. Save it, Clara interjected, her tone sharp. This is a notice of divorce, and these are documents detailing your fraudulent activities. If you don't want to face criminal charges, I suggest you cooperate fully. Michael's jaw dropped. You're divorcing me? Emily, I made a mistake, but we can fix this. Emily laughed bitterly. A mistake? You call stealing from your sick wife and sleeping with her sister a mistake? This isn't something you can fix, Michael. This is over. At that moment, Vanessa walked in, her face a mask of guilt and defiance. Emily, please, we didn't mean for it to get this far. Stop, Emily said, her voice cutting through Vanessa's plea. You and Michael are perfect for each other. Liars, thieves, and cowards. I hope you're happy together because you've both lost me. The days following the confrontation were a whirlwind. Emily filed for divorce, froze her bank accounts, and began rebuilding her life. Vanessa and Michael moved in together, their relationship now exposed to the world. But what they didn't anticipate was the fallout. Michael's employer caught wind of his actions and launched an internal investigation. He was fired for misconduct, and his reputation in their small community was in tatters. Vanessa, who had always relied on Emily's goodwill, found herself ostracized by friends and family. But Emily wasn't focused on their downfall. She was focused on herself. She poured her energy into her treatment, finding strength in the support of friends who rallied around her. Her oncologist, Dr. Patel, noticed the change in her demeanor during her next appointment. You seem stronger today, Dr. Patel said with a smile. What changed? Emily smiled back. I realized that I'm not defined by what others do to me. I'm defined by how I rise above it. Months later, just as Emily was beginning to find her footing, she received an unexpected call from Vanessa. Against her better judgment, she answered. Emily, Vanessa began, her voice trembling. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I need to tell you something. What could you possibly have to say to me? Emily asked, her voice cold. Vanessa hesitated. Michael, he's not who you think he is. He lied to me too. About the money, about his feelings. Everything. He's been using me. Emily sighed, the weight of Vanessa's words hitting her differently than she expected. And now you want sympathy? After everything you've done? No, Vanessa said quickly. I just thought you should know. He's been seeing someone else behind my back too. He never stopped lying. Emily hung up the phone, her emotions a mix of vindication and sadness. Vanessa's confession didn't change the past, but it did solidify one thing. Michael's betrayal wasn't about her. It was about him and his inability to be honest or loyal to anyone. As Emily's treatment progressed, so did her sense of peace. She joined a support group for cancer survivors, sharing her story and finding solace in the experiences of others. One of the members, a kind-hearted man named Daniel, became a regular companion during her appointments. His gentle humor and unwavering positivity were a balm to her wounded soul. One day, after a particularly grueling session, Daniel offered to take her out for coffee. Emily hesitated but then nodded. She wasn't ready for anything serious, but companionship didn't have to mean commitment. Over time, their friendship blossomed into something more. Daniel showed her what love without lies felt like, and for the first time in years, Emily allowed herself to hope for a future beyond the pain. The beach stretched endlessly before Emily, the rhythmic crashing of waves against the shore a soothing melody. She dug her bare feet into the cool sand, savoring the texture beneath her toes. It had been years since she'd stood by the ocean, years spent lost in hospitals, courtrooms, and the labyrinth of her own pain. But now, with the sun setting in hues of orange and crimson, she felt a profound sense of clarity. Daniel stood beside her, his presence quiet and comforting. He didn't press her with questions or try to fill the silence. He simply held her hand, grounding her in the moment. Emily turned to look at him, his face illuminated by the soft glow of the setting sun. For the first time in years, she didn't feel like a victim or a survivor. She felt whole. Emily's journey to this moment hadn't been easy. After discovering Michael's betrayal, she had been consumed by anger, heartbreak, and a desire for justice. But as the weeks turned into months, she realized that holding on to her pain only tethered her to the past. The turning point had come during a session with her therapist, a soft-spoken woman named Grace. "Emily," Grace had said gently, "forgiveness isn't about excusing what they did to you. It's about freeing yourself from the chains of their actions. You don't have to forget, but you do have to let go." Let go? Emily had scoffed. How do I let go of something that changed my life forever? Grace had leaned forward, her eyes kind but firm. By choosing to focus on what you can control, your future. You've been through hell, Emily, but you're still here. You're stronger than you know. Those words stayed with her, echoing in her mind during her quietest moments. She began to realize that Michael and Vanessa no longer deserved her energy or her thoughts. They had taken enough from her. It was time to take her power back. In Daniel, Emily found a love that was simple and unselfish. He didn't try to fix her or rush her healing. He simply walked beside her, offering support when she needed it and space when she didn't. On one of their coffee dates, Emily had confessed her fears. "I don't know if I'll ever trust anyone completely again," she had said, her hands wrapped around her mug. Daniel had smiled softly. "You don't have to trust me completely right away. Trust is built over time, brick by brick. I'm not asking for anything except the chance to show you I'm not going anywhere." His patience and understanding allowed Emily to open her heart again, one piece at a time. She learned that love didn't have to be dramatic or complicated to be real. It could be quiet, steady, and safe. Standing on the beach, Emily thought about the people who had hurt her, Michael and Vanessa. She thought about their betrayal, the lies, the pain. And then, for the first time, she let those thoughts drift away like the waves receding from the shore. They no longer held power over her. Their actions had been a reflection of their own flaws, not of her worth. She realized that her battle with cancer had taught her more than she ever thought possible. Not just about physical resilience, but about emotional strength and the importance of self-worth. "I spent so much time asking, why me?" Emily said aloud, surprising even herself. Daniel turned to her, his brow furrowed slightly. "And now? Now I ask, what can I do with this?" She smiled, her voice steady. "I can't change the past, but I can choose what kind of life I want to live going forward. I don't want to be defined by what happened to me, I want to be defined by how I rose above it." Daniel squeezed her hand, his expression one of pride. "That's a powerful choice, Emily." She nodded, her gaze returning to the horizon. The sun had almost disappeared now, leaving streaks of gold and purple in the sky. It was a fitting metaphor for her life, the darkness of the past giving way to the promise of a new dawn. The final piece of Emily's healing came a few weeks later. She decided to write a letter, not to send but to release her lingering emotions. Sitting at her desk, she poured her heart onto the page. "Dear Michael and Vanessa, I've spent so much time trying to understand why you did what you did. At first I thought it was my fault, that I wasn't enough, that my illness made me a burden. But I see now that your choices were never about me. They were about you. I forgive you. Not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. I hope you find the strength to face your own demons as I have faced mine. But know this, you no longer have a place in my heart or my life. Sincerely, Emily. She folded the letter and burned it in her fireplace, watching the flames consume the words. As the last embers faded, so did the weight on her chest. The next time Emily met with her support group, she shared her story, not as a tale of betrayal but as a testament to resilience. The other members listened intently, many moved to tears. Your story gives me hope, one woman said. If you can rebuild your life after everything you've been through, maybe I can too. That was the moment Emily realized her pain had a purpose. She could use her experience to help others find strength in their darkest hours. It wasn't just about surviving, it was about thriving. Years later, Emily published a memoir titled Rising Above, a story of love, loss, and redemption. It became a bestseller, inspiring countless people to overcome their own struggles. She dedicated the book to herself, not as a mark of vanity, but as a reminder of the courage it took to reclaim her life. Standing on a stage at her book launch, Emily looked out at the crowd. She spotted Daniel in the front row, his smile as steady as ever. I'm not a victim, she said into the microphone, her voice strong. I'm not even just a survivor. I'm proof that no matter how broken we feel, we can always put the pieces back together. The audience erupted into applause, but Emily wasn't thinking about their approval. She was thinking about how far she had come, and how beautiful the future looked from here. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please show your support by liking this video, share and subscribe to our channel. Also turn on the post notification bell so that you will be notified each time we post a story.